Welcome back to Son of Chelsea. Hope you're doing really well. I'm Daniel Charles. Hope you had a brilliant weekend. Yesterday, Chelsea won, Arsenal won. So this is going to be the breakdown of a game that left me feeling a lot of pride in Chelsea. Enzo Maresca's team, his approach, and the way in which Chelsea responded to adversity in the game. In contrast to the last time we faced Arsenal back in March, which I think was embarrassing. It was kind of the low point for me last season. So that shows the transformation, but also kind of a little bit of redemption to the last time we got a red card, or the last few times we got a red card, because we've had quite a few this year, specifically the Man United and Brighton games. And I think that has given me a lot of encouragement. I think the past week has been a great demonstration of Chelsea improving in aspects. 3 different games, 3 different types of opponents, and the way we handled all 3 games, despite the differences, I think have been really encouraging and should give us all encouragement heading into the festive period. So it wasn't a huge result, but I think the performance was good enough that it is still a landmark moment in Chelsea's progression under Enzo Maresca. And we're going to get into why, along with the insane performance, the dominant performance of one Reece James. Everyone pre-game, Moises Caicedo versus Declan Rice. Declan Rice versus Moises Caicedo. Who's the better midfielder? Well, the one who won the midfield battle was neither. And that was, of course, Reece James winning the midfield battle yesterday. And we'll get into how he did it. I just want to quickly talk about the red card. So much analysis has been done about it. We ain't going to spend too much time on it, along with too much time on that referee, because it's just not necessary. Yes, it was a red card. I always use the rule, if you flip around the players, if Mikel Merino has made that challenge on Moises Caicedo or any Chelsea player, are we asking for a red card? Yes, we are. I think Enzo Maresca was right, though, in his post-match press conference to cite the inconsistency. Because a few weeks ago against Spurs, Rodrigo Bentancur went in on Reece James in a very similar manner, and there was no red card despite VAR looking at it several times. And it's that inconsistency. I mean, the elbow from Hincapié to Trev, which literally happened a couple of minutes later. Gyökeres going flying in on Rob Sanchez later in the game as well. That inconsistency is something that is obviously a frustration, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you it wasn't a red card. My frustration with the official is the same frustration I always have with that official, and its incompetence of failing to control football games of significance. That's all we're going to talk about with the officiating. Let's get to the actually important stuff, which is the football. Some reactions here. John McKenzie, a brilliant guest I had on the show, football analyst for TIFO for The Athletic. Not a Chelsea fan, not an Arsenal fan, hopefully an objective view. And he says, I've done my rewatch and I've got to say, on the basis of the last couple of Chelsea games, I'm adding Enzo Maresca to my pantheon of good out-of-possession coaches. 11v11 against Arsenal was one of the best defensive displays I've seen in recent seasons. The great CFC Central pointing out that just to sum up how incredible Chelsea's display was on Sunday, Chelsea had more shots with 10 men in a half, 6, than Man City had against Arsenal in 90 minutes. That was only 5. And Chicago Dimitri pointed out that Chelsea kept Arsenal to 0.13 XG from set pieces. Their previous lowest was 0.19 against Liverpool, and they averaged around 0.65 XG per game in the league prior to Sunday. So that was the effect Chelsea had defensively against Arsenal as well. Looking at xgstat.com, definitely go and check them out in the description box below if you want to sign up to get the full package of stats around Chelsea, the Premier League and the FPL. Use my discount code SOC50. Really good site for some advanced data, and the XG timeline very much shows that despite going down to 10 men, Chelsea remained a persistent threat against Arsenal, which was really good to see. The final score being, in terms of XG, 0.84 XG compared to 0.89 for Arsenal, who had an extra man for over an hour. I thought the bravery of Chelsea was just so inspiring. I think it was something that I just love to see, of how Chelsea had clearly felt Arsenal were gettable during the game at 11v11. And weren't just going to raise the white flag. You know, Maresca didn't actually do that much. You know, if you factor in what he did last time or against Man United, Man United's the worst one for me, where he just kind of threw off all of our attackers and gave us no outlet. And it really ended the game, or at least put Chelsea in a really bad position. Here, he tweaked a little bit, bringing on Garnacho for Esteval, added more speed and transition, power really for Chelsea to have an outlet for fresh legs, where Chelsea were going to need them over the course of 45 minutes for the second half, down to 10 men. But you look at the set piece where we scored, I mean, the number of bodies we put forward for that set piece was not different, any less to what we usually do with 11 men. And it showed that Chelsea were brave, they were courageous, they were going to win the game despite being down to 10 men. And the goal itself, brilliant cross by Reece to the near post. wonderful flick on by Trev Chalobah. In terms of set pieces this season, Chelsea continue to be one of the most effective and dangerous alongside Arsenal in terms of XG created from set pieces per attempt and set piece goals per attempt. Chelsea highest on that category so far this year via markstats.club. So yeah, Chelsea doing well, and it's great credit to Bernardo Cueva, set piece coach, because what he's been able to do to improve Chelsea offensively and defensively, because it's not just Chelsea being a threat from set pieces, which I think in recent seasons we haven't always been, and that's a frustration because it is such a regular route to be an effective team. When things aren't working in open play, it can be such a deadly weapon, as Arsenal have shown. But when you come against Arsenal, you restrict them to such limited opportunities. You look defensively what Chelsea did from set pieces, and specifically one moment that really stood out to me in the second half was a moment and a way we tried to counter Spurs a couple of weeks ago, where instead, down to 10 men, you're like, well, maybe we throw all of our centre-backs and all of our players back into the box to try and crowd out Arsenal. Instead, we decided to move a few players forward, keep a few players forward, and that was the speed of Neto and Garnacho in transition. And what that did for Arsenal, just as it did to Spurs, is it forces Arsenal players to follow Chelsea back a little bit and take certain players, a few more Arsenal shots, out of the box, out of the area where they can attack the set piece. I think specifically in this move, Declan Rice was even forced a little bit back. And, because Arsenal, who'd already conceded to 10-man Chelsea, who'd already had problems dealing with Chelsea's threat in transition, the speed that we have with Neto and Garnacho, and Chelsea still trying to attack Arsenal, is Arsenal can't risk having a situation where they overcommit. And this is something that people pointed out, that Chelsea's bravery actually had an effect of maybe forcing Arsenal to be a little bit more conservative than they usually would be against 10 men. Because they thought to themselves, well, we've already been counted on. We don't have our strongest centre-backs. If we risk going all out for a winner here, Chelsea could hit us on the break. And specifically, because Rob Sanchez was so effective and dominant in the 6-yard box when these corners went in, how many of them he claimed. I mean, again, against Arsenal, who scored from a set piece in midweek, against Bayern Munich, who have been the best in this category for a number of years now, it truly is a sign of Chelsea defensively becoming so much more superior. And again, I think Bernardo Cueva deserves a lot of credit, because this is where you see the work, but also the work of the players. Rob Sanchez become a lot more confident, claiming crosses, being dominant in these situations compared to even a few months ago. Really, really good to see, and it's what made Chelsea a consistent threat and be able to be formidable. It was not just that. Chelsea, off the ball, even early in the game, 11v11, were just limiting Arsenal to very little space and stifling their build-up. Very early on in the game, 7 minutes in here, Chelsea, from David Raya getting the ball, he's got João Pedro near him, he's got Esteval, you've got Reece James even moving forward. We'll speak about Reece James' hybrid role in this game and the different positions he picked up. Caicedo pressing, Eberich. He has a very much going man for man. We've seen this before, Chelsea's ability to cover a lot of ground because of the athleticism and the aggression they have in central areas especially. And they're being really effective to kind of really fill any gaps and force Arsenal into areas they don't want to be, or less effective areas, which absolutely was the case in the first half before the red card, where Raya is forced to play the ball out to Mosquera, who's taken up a wide position, but technically doesn't do that well when he receives the ball. He's already been pressed by both Caicedo and specifically Pedro Neto. He plays the ball to Timber. Caicedo eats up the ground and forces a throw-in, completely shutting down Arsenal's build-up in that situation. And it is a superpower. It is almost a cheat code Chelsea have, specifically in this game, but just across the course of the season. I think you add Pedro Neto into this as well, because he increases the workload as well, but specifically in central areas, Reece James and Moises Caicedo. Not only the technical quality those players have on the ball, but off the ball, the way they were able to eat up ground, and specifically, of course, we'll get into Reece James. It is a cheat code, because it's at time having players who feel like they're more than just one player on the pitch, who can do multiple roles, who can cover ground so quickly, so ferociously. It's really difficult, and it suffocates the opposition. And I think it really drains them of confidence and forces them maybe to make errors or make passes and calls they wouldn't usually do. So it's not just something that you can do with any group of players. You obviously need some extraordinary talent and also physically imposing talent, but that's absolutely what Chelsea had in this game as well. And I think no one encapsulated it more on the day, the spirit of Chelsea, than Reece James. The intriguing thing was the different roles and the different areas of the pitch Reece James was picking up. In build-up from deep, Reece was even moving into a central defensive role, like the centre of a back three in build-up, which we haven't seen that much, really. Sometimes he'll play the right centre-back role. He'll obviously move in central midfield, even when he starts as a right-back. I do wonder if this was a way of Maresca trying to get Arsenal out of their compact shape, trying to force maybe Declan Rice a little bit higher to maybe vacate the space, and that's exactly what happened, because you'd see Malo Gusto move into central inverted area, and that's the way sometimes Chelsea are able to build up and get through Arsenal's initial press, which I don't think was that good and that effective on the day. But Chelsea absolutely were trying to find ways to open up the pitch because Arsenal were not playing the stupid high line that Barcelona were. Again, I was always curious to see how Maresca was going to try and find ways for Chelsea to find that space and those gaps against a more compact Arsenal team. And that's exactly was one way of doing it. But I think this moment in the 26th minute was such a great example of the monster performance, the dominance of Reece James. So again, Arsenal have been forced back to David Raya, trying to find a passing option. Calafiori has moved inwards to kind of a central midfield role. He picks up the ball from David Raya, and Reece just completely eats up the ground, eventually muscles Calafiori out the way, wins the ball back, running back towards his own goal, turns, and he's running towards goal, and Calafiori has to take him out and receives a yellow card. Again, something that not many footballers are able to enact, in that quick time, in that ferocity, being able to turn the ball round a high turnover and hopefully get Chelsea on the attack and eventually forces a yellow card, which was impactful on the day as well. And just all round, Reece later on in the game still showing that bravery, still trying to get Chelsea forward. Over here, 70 minutes, 1-1, game's tense. Chelsea maybe thinking we'll defend deep, we'll try and hold on to the point as much as we can, but Reece still moving forward, plays it into Malo Gusto in central midfield, plays the ball back to Reece James. He evades not just one, but two challenges, specifically one from Eberechi Eze. Some of the dribbling from Reece James as well yesterday was really impressive in quick action as well, to kind of take out several Arsenal players. It was such a monster. I keep on saying that, but like just a complete midfield performance, really, defensively and offensively. And he gets past a couple of challenges, skips through, and then plays a peach of a ball across the field to Alejandro Garnacho. In numbers, 11 of 12 duels won, 6 final third entries, 4 fouls won, 4 crosses, 2 chances created, 2 times possession won, 1 assist, 0 fouls conceded. No Chelsea player has provided more assists across all comps this season, and it is a real privilege. It's a blessing to have Reece fit, because I do just generally think, I've said this years ago, I think if Reece stays fit for the entirety of the season, touch wood he does, I think he wins Player of the Year. I think at the moment it's between him and Caicedo for Player of the Season. I know Esteval obviously will come into the thinking of some people because of his impact, despite not playing tons and tons of minutes. I absolutely understand that. I think Esteval will win Young Player of the Year. I'm pretty confident of that, even at this early stage. But I think Reece just amounts in performance. And you've got to say, Maresca has won the battle, really, in terms of him playing in midfield. It works on a consistent basis, but the versatility of him is freakish. His ability to dominate, even without a midfield partner like Moises Caicedo, was insane. Declan Rice was forced to have a really subpar performance. I don't think it was a dreadful Declan Rice performance. I just thought it was kind of average, as Arsenal were. And I think that was mainly down to the dominance of Reece James, which was just wonderful to see. An extraordinary footballer all round. The physicality, the aggression, the leadership, and the quality on the ball. Can't ask for much more from Reece James. I think another player I've got to pick out is Rob Sanchez. I've already spoken about him from set pieces. He made 2 big saves, especially one late on. Brave as well, going to claim the loose ball as well, where Gyökeres goes in. Rob Sanchez, I know the song's going, he's all right. He has transformed, and I think it's a reflection really of the transformation of a lot of Chelsea players and Chelsea in general under Enzo Maresca compared to where they were at the, earlier this year, calendar year I'm talking about, February, March time. And the way players are generally improving. I was on a podcast earlier where we were talking about generally the squad at the moment, and there aren't many players I look at as kind of red flags. There are a ton of players I look at, and either they've still got more to do, they've had some nice cameos, or they've really transformed their whole Chelsea career. And I think Rob Sanchez is definitely one of those players. He has very much solidified himself as Chelsea's first choice. He is making smarter decisions. He is not the big liability that he was 12 months ago. I always say when I talk about players, and when we have a difference of opinion about players, and I think that's great, especially when it goes from negative to positive. It's not that the negative never happened. It's not that we all weren't seeing something. Robert Sanchez was a calamity at times, and even this season he's done some questionable things. But it's undeniable the goalkeeper he is now compared to what he was 12 months ago. Night and day, night and day. He is not the reckless keeper. He is far more assured at set pieces. It's quite clear he has confidence with his centre-back, and I think that also helps in the recent run that we have Fofana and Trev being a really stable, dominant centre-back pairing as well. That's been massive too. So yeah, credit to Rob Sanchez, but mainly I think, along with the players and so many other players you can speak about, credit to Enzo Maresca. I think, his ability tactically in big games it's hard to question him, really. I mean, the decision making all round, the tactical blueprints he is putting out against a variety of top opponents in recent months, and seeing how impactful Chelsea are. How can you doubt it? Can we, as I said at the start of the show, if we can marry up the past week, if the general level of performance or the impact of results over the past week, if Chelsea can do that consistently, where you can't play like Barcelona, you can't play like you can against Arsenal, the intensity, the focus, the sharpness of those games are not always going to be there because of how many games there are, but also because it's Barcelona and Arsenal. It's not going to be the same. But if we can do what we did against Burnley consistently and be calculated and professional even when we rotate, play the big games properly, maybe get some big results, you can see why the sky could be the limit for this Chelsea team. You don't want to go too overboard or too negative. I still think the realistic ambition for Chelsea this year is to finish the Premier League season under 10 points below the eventual champions. And then we go again next season. I think that's a realistic target. Always have felt it's a realistic target this year because I think it's a sign of progression that Chelsea should aim for. And I think the players should be aiming for as well. And you look at where we are, 6 points. Not an overwhelming gap, a manageable gap, but still a gap. But I think, for Chelsea now, between now and Christmas, can we solidify ourselves further in an inconsistent Premier League within this top 4? But for now, Reece James has been incredible. Another really, really encouraging performance. I thought the spirit of the team was wonderful, and that's why they got the resounding applause and joy, really, from the support and the unified sense inside Stamford Bridge. I haven't felt unity inside Stamford Bridge like that for a long period of time, and that is a wonderful thing to report. So thank you guys for watching. Follow across the socials at SonOfChelsea. Get involved down in the comments, and I will see you again very, very soon. All the best.